Hey everyone, Vic here. I just want to let you guys know that we were having some technical issues with our live broadcast, and the beginning of this show, the audio seems to be a little bit fuzzy and distorted. This does clear up around the 12-minute mark, so if you can bear with us, we'd appreciate it. We tried to do our best in post production to make it sound as clear as possible. So, again, just a fair warning, you might want to lower your volume a little bit to ignore the distortion of the audio. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today at this late hour. This is the MedHost Net Podcast, Season 2, Episode 8, with our guest, Dr. Tigran Avakian, PhD. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm your host, Vic Aslanyan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Mike Balyan. It's been a long day, man, where we discuss our great Armenian history, covering different people, eras, and topics. It's Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. Happy Thursday, everyone. How are you, brother?
Oh, well, it's been an interesting evening.
Oh my God, man. I can't believe it's been crazy today. So we're live. We had some technical issues. We apologize, but we are good to go. Again, we're doing a late show because our guest is joining us from the other side of the world, basically, and we're thankful for everyone who are joining us right now. I don't want to take too much time with any announcements. We'll do that after. But I want to introduce Dr. Tigran Avakian. He's a professor of political science. He's also the former Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. He is the creator and head of the Armenian Heritage Project of Europe, I should say. Please welcome Tigran Avakian. Hi, Tigran. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hello, friends.
Hi.
Hi, Tigran. How are you?
Thanks for joining us. I know it's really early for you. Do we want to say where you are? I know, we talked about this before as far as your location.
Yes, it's normal. Everything is okay. I'm very glad to have possibility to speak with a lot of Armenians in English language, because I think that English-speaking Armenian is approximately 2 million, and it's a very important part of our nation. And that's why this broadcast is very interesting for me.
Yeah. I just want to tell our audience, Tigran speaks multiple languages, and I know we were talking about this, that you haven't used English in a while, but thank you for doing this in English. But anytime, if you want to speak Armenian, feel free. I know it might be easier, but we want to try to keep it in English because our audience is worldwide.
Yeah.
Again, anytime, if you want to explain something, you feel uncomfortable with English, feel free to speak in Armenian, and that's fine. Now, in the beginning, the first thing I want to ask you, if you can talk, our main topic is going to be Spurk, but before we get into it, can you give us a quick background about where you were born, where you grew up, a little bit about your ancestors, where everybody came from?
Yes, I born in Yerevan 1975. My mother born in Kiev, my father born in Georgia. All my childhood, partially, I was in Kiev and I was in Yerevan. It was kind of travels between two cities in my life. My ancestors are from Van, Bitlis, and Garin, that now called Erzurum in Turkish language. My heritage is Western Armenian, and also I have Ukrainian roots from my grandmother's side. If speak about my ancestors in Garin, they were officers during centuries and landlords. In 1915, they lost my grandfather at age of 15, lost the whole family. They were killed, and he remained alone. And during 3 years, traveled to his eldest sister to Kiev, Ukraine. Reached 1918, where born my mother. From part of my father, my ancestors were businessmen in Van. They were entered the production. Also, practically during the first genocide in 1892, were killed all ancestors of the father of my grandfather. He remained alone, then created family, and 1915 again suffered from genocide. His sons were killed, and together with her wife, they moved to territory of Russia, North Caucasus, then moved to Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia. All other relatives not come to Soviet Union and spread throughout the world. If speak about the history of the family, everybody of us could tell a lot of and long stories. It's a brief information.
Wow, that's. I mean, it's funny how that story resonates with so many of us. With so many,
every single one of our families has a story.
Yeah. Can everybody hear us? Okay. Tigran, can you hear us? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Audience, everybody okay? I don't know. Some people are saying it might be a little bit too loud, so I just want to make sure. So we have some questions for you set up. Mike, you want to ask?
Yeah. Okay, Tigran. So you have a PhD in political science, and you're a former deputy minister of internal affairs for Ukraine, right? What was it, 2014 to 2018? Yes. or 2016?
2014, 2016, yes.
Okay,
Sure.
okay. Can you tell us more about your studies as a professor and your position as a deputy minister? Whatever you can talk about, of course.
Yes, mainly during approximately 15 years, I'm concentrated conflictology, ethnic conflicts, geopolitical issues. It's kind of my profession as a scientist, and I take law during this period in a lot of different universities. I have approximately 170 scientific theses. It's normal for everybody for such a long period.
Yeah.
Yes, and as a Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, I was responsible for European integration. I was responsible for, during this period, I was one of the creators of Light Infantry Brigade of National Guard of Ukraine. I was responsible for foreign relations and was responsible for international operations.
Wow.
Of Ukrainian police, briefly.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of work. You said 170 theses, so that's normal. You said for people of your ilk or your position, yes.
During 15 years, I think. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, when did you I mean, when we asked what was the reasons why you left that position?
I left this position because it was my will. I decided to continue my scientific work also, and I decided a new work as a major consultant advisor of main gas oil company of Ukraine. I decided to change it because I thought that during 2.5 year period, I realized all that goals that I put forward before for a kind of a solution, kind of results for me. Yes, and I changed my position as July 2016. But at the same time, I remain as advisor approximately for the next 5 years as the Minister of Internal Affairs.
Okay. Now, we don't want to dive too deep into the current situation in Ukraine, but obviously it's on everyone's mind. We also understand that naturally there's a bit of a biased position on your end. What can you tell us as to what's happening in the outlook with this whole Russian and Ukraine conflict? We just want to touch on it a bit.
I would like to tell and stress that after the Second World War II, it's a second conflict by size. It's a tremendous conflict. It's a war against Ukraine launched by Russia, and war launched not only against Ukraine, it's a kind of launch against the whole Western world, the war against civilization. Present time is a great tragedy in Ukraine. Ukraine is the biggest country in the Europe, and the whole territory under the attack of aircrafts and missiles. A lot of people died every minute, I would like to tell, because to understand, Russians attack also dwellers, attack ordinary people, attack nursery houses, attack hospitals, attack schools. It's awfully, and all this information you could find in speeches of the President of France and President of USA when they take floor about this issue, and they do it very often.
I see. Okay. Where do you think this conflict is going to go? Like, what is your outlook?
I think it's a very long conflict. Everybody must ready that conflict will be very long. The second, very important, I think that the President of Russia will be not hesitate if it will be necessary, basing his understanding of the life, to use a nuclear weapon. We must understand. And everybody, we know what could be happened if he will do it. Does it mean that it's a very dangerous conflict for the whole planet, for the whole civilization? That this we have now, and nobody know where it will be stopped. Present time, Ukrainian army, very professional way and brave, resist to the Russian occupation troops. And I think and hope that Ukrainian army, with the aim of the whole civilized world, will win.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants this to end as fast as possible, right?
Yeah.
That is
Well,
the goal.
end of the day, no matter what happens, it's the people that are suffering. Governments can go to war, governments can play chess with countries, but it's
we're the victims.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
We know this is a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
We don't want to, we just wanted to touch on it since you are from there and just get your point of view.
Let's
dive into our topic, which
let's
is the
talk about
diaspora.
Yeah, let's talk about the Armenian diaspora, especially in Ukraine, which I'm sure you know a lot about. Can you go back to the first migration of Armenians to Ukraine and their contributions to the Ukrainian country?
Sure, I would like to stress that approximately more than also 15 years, I'm concentrated the issues of Armenians throughout the world. I involve this process not only concerning diaspora, concerning elaborating the metrics, how to live, where we go as the whole Armenian nation to understand our perspective, basing our past. You speak about Ukraine. I would like to tell that first Armenians appear on the territory of South Ukraine in Crimea approximately 2,100 years ago during Mithridat king invasion in Bospor kingdom. It was 2,100 years ago, and these Armenians were soldiers, because Armenia, small Armenia, was a major part of Pontus kingdom at that time, and Armenian regiments were situated in Crimea. After it, a great flow of Armenians is the 9th century. A lot of Armenians transmoved to the territory of present Kiev region. They created a big kind of Armenian society, large by size. And from that time, 10,000 of Armenian were left Armenia for the territory of Ukraine. And it was during medieval ages, it was before genocide, it was during Soviet period, and it was after Soviet period. We could say that approximately present time 400,000 Armenians live in Ukraine.
Wow.
Yes, 400,000. It was 500,000, but 100,000 remained on occupied territories. That now controlled by Russia. I speak about Crimea, about Donetsk and Lugansk districts. Yes, it was 500,000. From this 500,000, approximately 4% represent all diaspora. 4%, 20,000. They have no ordinary Armenian surnames with Iran. Their surnames is Ich and Ski, for example, Teodorovich, Amirovich, Terletsky, such kind. There are 20,000. They are deeply assimilated because after a Soviet invasion and joining Western Ukraine, liberating Western Ukraine and joining to Ukrainian Soviet Republic, all Armenian churches, all Armenian schools all Armenian organizations were forcibly closed at 1939, and the assimilation was in force during the Soviet period. It was prohibited to open any Armenian organization, not for new diaspora, not for old diaspora. And we must understand that Crimean Armenians were deported to Siberia during the Second World War by the Stalin, and we lost Armenian heritage in Crimea. And if it were deported 13,000 Armenians, 13,000, only 1,000 returned back in 19th of last century. This is the situation. You speak about impact of Armenian, of Ukrainian culture is tremendous.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you what kind of impact they did, during these times, or what kind of impact did they have in society with, certain sectors or whatever the case is,
Yes, I will tell. The first mention of the capital of Ukraine, it's the mention of Armenian scientist Zenon Glak. It's a mention that recorded 7th century kind of essay about establishment of Kiev. It's very controversial essay because it's there noticed that Armenian princes came from Armenia and established the capital, the Kiev. But we have no any proofs of this situation, only this essay of 7th century. And it's basing the tradition, we think that it's a legend. Yeah. But Zenon Glak in 7th century stated that Armenian princes came and established the city. But we think it's a legend. Yes, also because Armenian historical tradition, and in past and now, is very poor. We have no serious historians that could prove. Also, if for other nation it's necessary to have one mention and the whole world will tell, yes, it's so. If it's related to Armenians, we could have everything and nobody will be believed. It's our very serious problems of our nation. After it, I would like to stress that Byzantium, the sister of Byzantium emperors, Anna, were from Armenian dynasty, as were Armenian. It's a person that kind of created the first base for Christianity in Ukraine. We could tell that Christianity came with Armenians. Yeah. Thanks to Anna. After it, I would like to tell that the first leader of Ukrainian warriors, Cossacks, Ivan Podkova, also was Armenian because his full name was Ivan Karapet Sapega Podkova Armenopol. That is significant Armenopol, Armenian. Mm-hmm. And if you speak about Armenians in Ukraine, I could speak about 1,000 prominent persons, such as composer Karel Mikuli, such as, for example, Ignacy Lukashevich, very prominent scientists, and a lot of, not hundreds, but 1,000 people. But I think it's not only related to Armenian, it's related practically to majority countries of Europe and Middle East. Yeah. Impact of Armenian civilization is very huge, very serious.
Yeah. Now, as far as you talking about it being a legend, that people say that it's a legend, are there any architectural fingerprints, evidence that Armenians helped build the city of Kiev?
Listen, I explained how it's happened the week in the world. To have real architectural findings in the world, you need to control the territory. You understand? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because we have a lot of architectural findings in Georgia, in Azerbaijan, in Turkey, in Iran, and we don't know what's happened with artifacts. You understand what I would like to tell? During Soviet period, Russians not possess Armenians to have history more influential than history of other nations in Soviet Union, including the Russians. We must understand it because history, it's a politics in the world. And a poor nation could have only a weak history. We must also understand it. Political strengths of the state give possibility for nation have a strong history. Armenians' history is very huge. Armenian history is very influential. Problems of us Armenians that minority of Armenians know 5–10% of our real history. Majority know only some formal characteristics about our history, as Mesrop, Mashtots, Tigran, Metz, Kilikio, Takavarutsun, Kilikian Kingdom, Yehern, and that's all. But our history is very serious. Very serious, but our nation is disintegrated in the world, not only now, but especially now. And we have no serious Armenian institutions that continue pursue the work concerning Armenian history, pursue the work concerning Armenian nation, pursue the work what is the goal of our nation. Because if some people possible think that our goal is speak Armenian, Western or Eastern, not important. Prepare barbecue, dance kochari, and play, for example, chess. But it's not could be a sense of the nation. Yes, because not only Armenian could do barbecue. We must understand it.
So how
not
do
real.
I completely understand and agree with you, and that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast is to educate people about our history. That there is history, like you said before, Metzieren, the genocide. We have a rich history to talk about these stuff, and people like yourself, intellectuals and other intellectuals who have been on the show. What do you think? What do you think the path is to help teach this generation and the coming generations to learn about our history? What should we do as the diaspora?
I think, based in my opinion, sure, our history, it's a background for present life, in background for our future. We must understand that for Armenians, it's necessary to use some kind of social technologies and specific instruments to unite Armenians. It's necessary to submit for consideration of Armenians some very serious goals for what we remain Armenians. Nobody knows, because recognition of Yehern genocide, it couldn't be the goal to remaining Armenians. We must have a common goal for remaining Armenians. And we must offer Armenian boys some ideas why remain Armenians, some profits why remain Armenians. It's very important, because when young Jew became 19, he graduated yeshiva, Jewish school. He is a professional in economics or in law, and the whole Jewish community support him. When Armenian graduated Armenian school, he learned only speak Armenian language at some semi-Armenian dances as kochari, and that's all. And I would like to ask everybody, with knowing kochari and Eastern Armenian or Western Armenian, could we survive in the modern world? Without assistance of Armenian diaspora, could we survive? But it's a great problem, and we must understand that without creation corporative structures, without offering our youth some perspective and ideas why to remain Armenians, it's no perspective for our nation at all.
That kind of leads me into the next. Well, you had a question?
Yeah.
Go
You
ahead.
don't think? I guess this is just an offshoot question. Would be? Do you think that maybe because of the lack? I mean, I'm asking the obvious here. Maybe because it's the lack of, I don't know, culture or Western civilization, that maybe so many of Armenians that leave get attracted to that and don't want to come back. You know what I mean? Like it's an obvious issue. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we see it. You and I have talked about it sometimes. I was a victim of it, right? Growing up here, being born here, but something kept pulling me back, right?
Yeah.
It's not because I'm going to go to Armenia and make millions or something like that. It's your culture. It's internally, right?
Yeah.
But how do you think that can be deep rooted in, let's say, some of the younger generation moving forward? How can other people, and how can Armenia itself be able to instill that in the generations moving forward, where, like you said, you really want to take grasp of your culture and blow it up?
Yeah.
I think that it's not only enough to learn culture, not only enough, I told about it, to learn history. Again, I would like to stress that we need to submit for our youth a perspective. Why? Very thin perspective. Why they could be or must or can or any other proverb we can use, remain Armenian. Why? That's why very important to create corporative structures. The same that we had in medieval age. We had Amkarutum, unions, professional unions at time that assist each other. It's very important to create Armenian World Network because Armenian must use that tools that we have now. Main tools that differ us from other nations is very strong network throughout the world. And you are, for example, Armenians barristers, yeah, they could more fast communicate from Los Angeles to Melbourne, yeah, and to solve any question, totally Armenian legal experts, lawyers, yeah. Then, for example, barriers of other ethnic heritage, because everywhere live Armenian lawyers, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
The same, everywhere Armenian economists, everywhere Armenian bankers, everywhere Armenian doctors. Very important to create effective unions, not formal unions, not formal organization. Present time, all our organization, or formal, or if not formal, they fight for genocide recognition. Genocide recognition is a key and most important issue. But we don't need recognition. If you go to the street and you was kicked by some gang, you will not go to the whole friends and ask, I was kicked, boys? They thought, oh, you was fantastically kicked. And again, go, you really, I was kicked? Oh, it was fantastic. It was grandiose. You know what we do. We need understand, we need speak about reparations. We need have the goal how to return to our land, not to run and ask, if I was kicked, really, could you recognize it? That gang kicked me?
Absolutely true.
It's stupid and no sense what we do. And why we pay to senators and congressmen of non-Armenians that they will take floor and tell, oh, I'm sorry, Armenians were kicked. It was great kick. Yeah. It's not. It's very infantile. It's something not serious. We lost 100 years without unification, without creation strong organization. Why we have no Armenian national agency that unites the whole Armenians in the world? We have a benevolent organization without any sense that concentrated, I don't know what.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do I have to say it? Profit.
Profit.
They only look to make money. I hate to say it. It's true.
Yeah. Tigran, let's talk a little bit more broader. Let's talk about the, what can you tell us actually about the Armenian diaspora around the world, starting from the migration before the genocide and then after the genocide?
Yes, it's a very important issue, I would like to tell that we have 4 strata of diaspora. Ordinarily, we speak about 2 strata of diaspora. Yes, in the world, we speak it's all diaspora, meaning the Armenians that after the genocide spread the world. And new diaspora, it's a flow from Middle East and present Armenia. But it's a very false kind of matrix for this. I explain why. Because our old diaspora, it's Armenians that left Armenian highlands during approximately 2000, 1100, 1000 years ago, and they created new ethnic groups in the world with Armenian heritage that we practically don't learn and don't know nothing about it. But we have a lot of nations and ethnic groups of Armenian, partially, totally Armenian heritage in the world. And what's the problem? That, for example, in Lebanon, we have Maronite families in Lebanon of full Armenian heritage. In Lebanon, we have Druze nation of predominantly Armenian heritage. In Lebanon, we have now ethnic groups of partially of full Armenian heritage. Also, we have post-genocide Armenian society in Lebanon that divided Protestant, Catholic, and Apostolic. And all these groups that I mentioned has no any connection as a unique entity. This is our problem. We have a peaceful Syria approximately 90 years, and no context between Islamized Armenians that were 250,000 in northern Syria and Syrian Armenian population, because our church told, oh, they are not apostolic, they are non-Armenian. No, they are non-Armenian. They are Catholic Armenians. Oh, they are non-Armenians. You understand? Dashnak told, oh, they are Muslims. No, they are not Armenian. They are not from, for example, Kilikia, they are not Armenian. They are not from Van, they are not Armenian. We must forget about these stupid division lines.
It's so similar to a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the
constant division within our own culture.
Same thing.
Yes, Gahut division, Gahut.
Yeah.
We call Gahut division because Armenians must be one nation. We must use a lot of possibilities and tools and instruments that we have, but we don't do it. We don't do it practically. I could submit you one example, very serious example for everybody to understand. We have Romania, country in southeastern Europe and Balkans. It's a big country. In Romania, we have approximately official 2,000 Armenians. 1,800 of them came after genocide, and 200 representative of the old diaspora, only 200. And it's a very small community of 2,000. But nearby in Transylvania, western part of Romania, it's 60,000 Hungarian-speaking Catholic Armenians that would like to recognition to become Armenians. And you know what's happened? Some leaders of official Armenians not possess to that Armenians that Romania will recognize them Armenians. It's not all. In eastern part of Romania, we have Orthodox Armenian-speaking Armenians. The same situation. There are approximately 50,000. 50,000. In western part of Romania, we have ethnic group of Banat Bulgarians Their ancestors were Armenians. Nobody do nothing. And same places in the world, the same. We are very big, very strong nation.
That's
Not
so that's like
and we not do and don't want to do.
so that's I mean, according to the numbers you just said, there's close to like 150,000 if
Sure.
I'm not mistaken in Romania,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
only 2,000 are recognized.
Sure.
Wow.
Because you understand what's happened. We not need other enemies. The best enemy for Armenians is Armenian.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, Tigran John. It's a very
the
unfortunate.
Yeah.
This is the problem of
My,
our
my,
nation.
my mom
And we don't-
my mom says that all the time.
Yeah.
It's a serious problem. We have a lot of resources. We're a very rich nation. We're a very strong nation. We live everywhere. I could tell you that in Bulgaria, in Macedonia, in Turkey, we have 1 million Pomaks. It's a nation. 1 million, more than 1 million. They totally has Armenian heritage. Nobody know about it. Also prominent American scientists of Armenian heritage don't know about it, but everything this, it could open the book and read to make investigation. More than 1 million. We have nations totally composed from Armenian component. We don't learn it. It's after genocide, it's more than 100 years past. We don't know how Armenians were assimilated in Turkey. We don't know how Armenians remain in Turkey. What sub-ethnic Armenian groups remain in Turkey. You understand?
Yeah.
What we do this time?
Yeah.
What we do? Learn how to dance kochari or not? I don't know.
Oh man, you really don't like Kochari.
Well,
Before we continue, those of you who are just joining us, we have Tigran Avakian, I should say Dr. Tigran Avakian joining us live, and we are discussing the history of the diaspora, Armenian diaspora in Ukraine, around the world. And we're having a very great conversation, interesting conversation. To our audience who is joining us live, if you guys have questions for Tigran, please feel free to ask, and we will share it with him. And I think you can see the questions as well on the side. But yeah, let's continue.
yeah. So Tigran, you are the creator of the head of the Armenian Heritage of Europe, right? What can you tell us about this project? I know we've been kind of talking about the Armenian diaspora and whatnot. How much further can you go about this?
The first sample of this project was a film, Armenian Legacy of Europe. It's in YouTube. I recommend to watch this film. It was approximately 10 years. It's on YouTube, and it's open in English language. Armenian Legacy of Europe. It's a very important film about the history of Armenians in Eastern Europe. Project was stopped because it's very expensive to have such professional films, and it's necessary very serious budgets to have to create such project. Concerning film, it was stopped, but concerning learning Armenian heritage throughout the world, no. Main purpose to understand what does it mean Armenian diaspora, from what parts consist Armenian diaspora, where Armenian lives, and what is the quantity of Armenians in every country. It's very important topic, and I continue this study. It's kind of my hobby, but I spend a lot of times of my life devoted to these studies. If we could speak about present Armenian diaspora, I could very briefly, very fast try to explain what's happened with us now.
Sure.
Where, yes. Present time, we could, it will be easy to divide mentally and kind of a matrix to imaginate Armenian diaspora between continents. Yeah. I think I will not speak about Armenian diaspora in USA. Nevertheless, I was in Armenian centers in USA. I know a lot. and in Canada. Or I could a little bit speak about Armenian diaspora in South America, because it's under huge influence of assimilation. For example, in Argentina, we had approximately 300,000 Armenians with Armenian identification present time of 120,000. It's not good. In Brasilia, we have approximately 80,000 with Armenian identification of 50,000. If it shows a level of assimilation. Same in USA. All Armenians that came to USA before the genocide, 95% of that Armenians practically assimilated and became Anglo-Saxons. Young, I don't know, it's correct to tell, I don't know how it's tell, Yankee, Anglo-Saxons, white Americans, I don't know the truth. 95% of the very big Armenian diaspora throughout the world. For example, I explain why. When Armenians from Hungary go to USA 150 years ago, USA adopts them as Hungarians. They spoke Transylvanian Armenian. They go to small Armenian society and tell, hello, I am Armenian. Armenian from Polis or from, for example, other part of Armenians, open eyes and told, you Armenian. You are not Armenian, boy. You understand what's happened? Yeah. Same happened everywhere. When Armenians from Armenia came to Ukraine, to western part, and met Armenians that kept their identity more than 1,000 years, these newcomers from Soviet Armenian that had no any Armenian culture, except that I will not repeat what, starting the barbecue. They told to that real Armenians, you are not Armenians. To that Armenians that built churches, castles, that were great warriors and had a huge impact, the boys that spoke language created only 150 years ago. I speak about Khachaturabayan language that has no history, that has history of 150 years. I don't know why it was happened, because we had language unique and one for the whole Armenians, but we decided how to possible divide our nations into two parts. Oh, it's best way to create second language, boys, and we did it with the assistance of the Russians, because it was useful for them to divide our nations. Yeah. And now our nation artificially speak two languages. During 3,000 years spoke one, having one language literally. Now we have two, and if we will speak, we mainly speak. Nevertheless, I understand and speak Western Armenian, but I mean the old Armenian language. I speak Eastern Armenian mainly. That was created 150 years ago, and that boys met local Armenians that left there 1,000 years and 1,000 years keep traditions, and thought, oh, you are not speak Armenian of Yerevan dialect, boys. You could not do barbecue. You are not Armenians. You are not Armenians because your anthropology is not Armenian. You have no any Caucasian anthropology, some face. You have blue eyes. You could not be Armenian. No, you are not Armenian. You understand what's happened.
It's like automatically erasing their heritage by constantly telling them, well, you're not this, you don't identify with the Armenian that we think you should be, so you're not Armenian, basically. That's what he's saying.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, but it seems so simple, though. It seems so simple to be able to just classify you. It's like, you know.
Yeah, what is Armenian? And if you think about it, Armenians, you know, there's evidence that Armenians back in the days were blonde, blue eyes, you know, fair skin. Mm-hmm. So, wow, it's amazing hearing this from you, talking about how you go back, you know, especially, and if I mention, I think Vahan Setyan is joining us in the audience. He talks about this, about the migration from the Armenian highlands of Armenians thousands of years ago, and creating different, and we even talked about how there's so many And I believe there's, I forget who mentioned, I thought it was Vahan or Gevork, about the different types of dialects we have.
Both.
Yeah, I think both of them mentioned it, that Armenians have so many dialects from the past that if they were to meet right now and talk, they wouldn't understand
Nobody would
each
understand
other.
each other. Yeah.
You know, so.
I think the most important goal for everybody of us must be creation of Armenian schools. Armenian schools where we will explain youngers what does it mean be Armenian, for what remain Armenians, and where we go. Where we could go to only, we could have only one goal, to create strong Armenian state. But to create strong Armenian state, we need to do the same as Israel. Only one variant, where the whole Armenian will be represented, that nobody could influence. What we have now in Armenia, why it's not successful? Because we remain local Caucasian Eastern Armenians alone and told, oh, you are pro-Russians. You think that Russia will bless you and help you. Live how I want. I will not go there. I will not return back there. It's not my Armenia. It's Caucasus. My Armenia is from Black Sea to Mediterranean, but it's not Armenia. It's a very false position. We need to organize the backflow of Armenians to Armenia. And only such way we could change Armenian climate. Only such way.
Yeah.
If we remain local Armenians alone, they became some variant of Caucasian tribes that speak Armenian dialect without any Armenian perspective. And it will be our guilty, not they, because they are under strong influence of non-Armenian nations. They are under the strong influence of Russia. They practically occupied by Russia present time, after you know what's happened, when Russia pushed Armenia to lose the war. When Russia pushed Armenia and Armenian generals, Armenian politicians to lose the war. Nobody speak about it in Armenia, but we must speak about it in diaspora and think what to do. You understand what's happened? We are one country that told that it's our ally, using the chantage, press Armenia and told you will not fight. It's a reality.
I mean, that actually, you set up my next question I was going to ask you perfectly. Having such a powerful diaspora around the world, I think with calculation, we're like over 10 million outside of Armenia, especially after the 2020 Artsakh war. What have we done to help with the advancement of the people of Armenia in every aspect from, let's say, economics, military, and technology sectors? Do you see any progress from the diaspora?
No, I see really regress, because the main that important is to return back, not to help return back and build. It must be will to return back and build new Armenia. And assist to them who has no financial possibility. Finance them that if you could not come back, find somebody who would like to go back and build, because we need as minimum 5 million population of Armenia to think about creation of serious state that will be similar to Israel. But with 2,500,000 that we have now, it's no any perspectives.
Let me ask you a question based off of what you're saying. I know in the past, we've heard things like over the last, 10, 15, 20 years, Turkey granted automatic citizenship to anybody who had even a family member that was born in Turkey. You didn't have to be born in Turkey, but as long as you had a family member, you can be granted citizenship. And that's a way to lure people back into the country and contribute. Now, is there something that Armenia is currently doing in any way, shape, or form to give incentive, not necessarily with money, but any sort of incentive to bring these people back, right? Like Is there any program in place that you know of, or is there any plans for any program in place?
You mean from Turkish side, yeah?
No, from Armenian side. But I was just giving Turkey as an example. You know.
Okay. I would like very short to tell about to start from the negotiation between Armenia and Turkey.
Okay.
I will tell you what Turkey will offer to Armenians. It's very important. Nobody know about it and nobody speak about it, but I'll tell you very shortly what Turkey will offer. He will offer artificial Armenian societies they will create in Sasun, in Van, very small, in Diyarbakir, in Erzurum, to possess to local Armenians, crypto-Armenians of Christian descent, but in small quantities, to create kind of villages, the same as Indians in USA, small reservations, where everybody could come and karotarnel, yeah, as Armenians told, and see that we have Armenia in Western Armenia. Yeah, they will renovate it. Ani, some part, not much, as Armenian part of Ani. They will renovate 10 or 15 churches. They will possess to open 2 or 3 Armenian schools in Mush and Sasun for local Islamized Armenians. And that's all. They will ask us, forget about genocide, forget about our plans, and will give us a gift. Everybody at once could go to Adana and see 3 dozen Armenians living there. They will do some Armenians, I don't know, Tolma. It will be festival. Same will be in Diyarbakir. Same will be in one small district with, in one more, it will be 2,000-3,000 Armenian district. You understand? Yeah. We must be lucky. We will be very lucky because you see, Western Armenia, Yerkir exists. We go, it's our land. We could freely live there. But Turkey never possessed to 7 million Islamized Armenians, became Armenians again.
Yeah.
You Turkey never possessed to open DNA laboratories to show that the half of the whole Turkey has Armenian blood. You understand? Because it's a great politics. But what could do Armenian? Armenian, again, must use social technologies to speak with Turkey. We need to solve question, Armenian question. We need to speak to Turks. We must be strong and speak with them. We must find compromise to return back to our lands, to become more stronger. We need to act.
Now, in terms of Armenia itself, right, do they have any sort of, is there anything that they're doing? I mean, I don't know, where they're trying to get people to come back to Armenia to repopulate or repatriate Armenia, whether it be, I know there's been advancements in technology, right? There's a lot of schools being put up, tech schools, technology forward schools and whatnot. But besides that, what else are they doing? What else is the Armenian government doing, or just Armenia itself doing to maybe possibly flood the country back with people?
We must not rely on present Armenian government.
Government,
yeah. Armenian government. I explain why. Because they represent interests of Russian Federation, not Armenian nation.
Okay.
We need to rely on Armenian nation in Armenia. We need to go back to change the situation without relying on present Armenian government. Because really, last 30 years, we have no any Armenian government in Armenia. All were agents of other states. I speak very open. They were no Armenians. They represent interest mainly of Russia and other states, but mainly Russian Federation. They were not really Armenians, politicians. We had no any Armenian politicians there leading the country. It's my own, it's my opinion, and not as scientist, as politics.
Mm-hmm.
Armenians must know it. Why we live in such conditions? Why Armenia is so poor? Because they were kleptocrats. They thought only how to robbery money from Armenian diaspora and Armenian economy, to buy palaces in Russia, throughout the world, in USA, yes, to buy yachts, and it was to collect money in Switzerland banks. This was the aim of these people, because they were no Armenians by spirit. And they were no Armenians basing their political wings. And everybody know it and nobody speak it, because it's too easy to come to Armenia to give $1,000 or $1 million to build one library or innovate one church, and told ahvore ugenal.
Yeah, it's problem namesh.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, and to add to his question, it's not a simple task. But what do you think the right process is from the business investment, intellectuals, education, medicine, technology, and just the overall job sector? What do you think? How should the diaspora start this process to start investing into Armenia?
I think that huge Armenian diaspora must find some small district in Armenia and be responsible for this district. For example, Australian Armenians, that approximately 100,000, could find not one village, but a couple of villages or small town, and concentrate it, be responsible for this territory. American Armenians must be responsible for the whole country, because it's very big and huge diaspora. For example, Armenians from Italy could be responsible for some small district. And every Armenian diaspora must, as invoice, send young Armenians, professional Armenians to Armenia, kind of envoy of Armenian nation, of this diaspora, to be in Armenia, and assist them to establish a small Armenian Italian community in Armenia, small American Armenian community, and so on. This is idea. I speak about real steps, because we could write down a lot of unreal ideas and steps, but we have no this possibility. But exist real steps that are necessary to do. Yeah, it's very important, because present time you see that nobody really leads the nation. An efficient situation. Party or traditional parties, they are inefficient. They not represent per agenda. Our churches is not efficient. Yeah, mainly our problem is that our organization, World Armenian Organization, they concentrated on imitation and profanation. It's the main idea: imitation and profanation. Not real metrics, not real strategic planning. Without Armenian strategic planning, it's impossible to do. After genocide, we had no any strategic planning. 100 years.
We let the Russians do it.
Well, besides, right, or I think especially the diaspora, they were heavily concentrating with trying to get the genocide recognized, especially in the U.S., and all we got was false promises, from politicians to presidents, and I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if it was putting all your eggs in one basket, and I feel like that's what we did.
What it is.
Yeah, and it's
literally
unfortunate. Tigranjan, and to the audience as well, if you guys have questions, I know some people are asking questions. We'll get to them once we are done with our questions, I guess, our topics. And they're random, so, some might be within the topic, some a little bit off, but to everyone, we'll be asking your questions shortly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I'm ready. I will be glad to answer the questions.
Okay.
With the current talks of normalizations with Turkey and possibly Azerbaijan, how do you see the future of the Armenian diaspora playing out around the world? Let's say 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, if you can. And also, do you see more people leaving Armenia or a large repatriation or population growth in Armenia?
Present time, I see that Armenians continue to left Armenia and go toward Russia. By just 7 days, Armenians think how to left Russia and not important where to go, because you know what's happened now. Russia start war against the whole civilized world. And I think that Armenians that go to Russia as economic migrants, now they try as soon as possible to left Russia for any country of the world. Concerning normalization, yes, we need normalization to become stronger. We not need to normalization to forget about our interest. And we need this normalization because Armenian now is very weak. We need time to concentrate it more and more Armenians in Armenia, to create strong army, financial system, intellectual centers. Because if we told that we are most intellectual nation in the world, why we are in such bad situation? We need to create these intellectual centers in Armenia. It's very important. We have all tools to create very strong state that could alone be in a kind of paradigm to secure its territory and be very strong and very effective. Look at Singapore, yeah, for example. Why not we? We have 6,000 years history. We have grandiose, tremendous results throughout the world, everywhere. Why we are so unsuccessful on our land?
On our
It's
land.
not normal.
No, it's not. It's true. Everywhere we go, we find success, except for inside our country.
Yeah.
Or on our motherland, right?
Yes, we need this success. We need it on our motherland, not outside.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're starting to see that slowly. I've met quite a few people, especially since we started doing this project, that are working in the direction of starting some sort of a project there to help educate, help the economy, help people learn a craft, to have a job and have that craft help, in every possible way. But again, it's not as easy as getting up and packing and going back. People have lives. For example, we have lives here.
It's the comfort of it. It's once
It's
you
not just the
settle in
comfort. Listen, we always talk about how our parents, let's say in '88, right?
Yeah.
My parents left everything, got up, came here and started a new life. Very brave thing to do, very scary thing to do. I can't imagine just leaving everything I have here and getting up and going, even though it's my motherland. It's very difficult to go and start. So what we need to do as the diaspora is find ways of, without leaving, let's not call it comfort, let's call it our lives here, but start a new version of that life there and slowly transition into it. And when I say slowly, I'm not talking about 50 years. I'm talking about give yourself a 5-year plan, maybe max 10-year plan. Start slowly doing that.
Now, here at the end of the day, and I'm going to be a very, very harsh realist about this, and I know you and I have had this conversation even with prior guests. What is the number one thing that's going to deter anybody from wanting to go back to Armenia? Is money.
Yeah.
This is it. I hate to say it because let's say they leave Armenia, they come here, let's say in the US, they make more money than in Armenia. Doesn't matter what the tax situation is, whatever the case is. Are they really going to go back and look at that number fall? Or I mean, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. That's the problem.
But that's because people think it's the greed and the ego that takes in.
It's, egotistical.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Tigran, we have some questions, and the first question, again, Edgar is asking, let me put this on the screen. And his question is, how would you compare the corruption over the last 30 years in Ukraine versus Armenia? Do you see any comparison?
Look, the whole post-Soviet countries involved into corruption processes, because during the collapse of Soviet Union, the matrix of corruption were inserted in this process. What's happened? It was a huge property in Soviet Union, economic, it were plants, it were some great state businesses, and Soviet Union leaders possess to young boys, represented young communist organization predominantly, and security services to take loans from banks, buy actions on very cheap lower for nothing, make privatization of plants, and they created a communist, practically a reformator communist, new business class of oligarch. You understand what happened?
Yeah.
These uneducated oligarch, they pursue the policy of corruption because they has no Western values, no enough education. But you know, when person has a lot of money, he start to think that's a very clever boy. It's normally. If you have money, you immediately became very clever and smart. It's a life of humanity.
Yeah. It's that thing that, you know, the minute you have money, all of a sudden you feel like king.
Yeah.
You think you're the smartest one in the world. You know what's best because you were there. I guess call it the right time, right place.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that all economic class in post-Soviet republics were created artificially, not naturally.
It's
This
true.
is a problem.
That's true. That's true. Let's see. Anybody else have any other questions? I don't know if this question from Edgar has a lot of questions.
Yeah, Edgar's on fire tonight.
I'm not sure what this was towards, but his question was, does Armenia have the same annual funding from the U.S.? Does Armenia have the West protection that Israel has? Does Israel have, what is that, AATZ? I'm not sure what that means. That is, you know, controlled from a different country.
Okay, I explain my position and the reality that we have. Nobody blocked Armenians prior to Jewish nation to be so strong in America as Jewish. Nobody. Armenians in medieval Europe were 100 times stronger than Jewish nation, and we lost everything. Jewish nation learn from Armenians and go ahead. Okay, we could not be second Jewish in USA because USA just have Jewish nation. Why we did not do it in China? Why we don't do it in India? Other great powers, why? Why not? If Jewish became invoice of USA and Anglo-Saxon world, Armenians could be, not now, it's late, to be invoice of China in the world. Why not? But why it's happened with Jewish religious leaders create yeshiva. Plants, it's a school. Plants, yeshiva is a small plant that produce Jewish boys and girls with the same standards throughout the world. We have no such schools, but we need it now. When we will have the same schools that will produce standardized Armenians, we will have future. Standardized Armenians that will communicate each other, that will assist each other, that will the goal as Jewish nation have. Why Jewish nation do it? Because they know that they are nation of God. Who we are? We must answer first this question. Who we are, to understand who we are. We have serious basis to know who we are. We not use it. We are not small Middle Eastern nation. We are not Caucasian nation. We are unique Armenian nation with Armenian highlands. We are not Middle East. We are not Caucasus. We represent our Armenian highlands. We represent the land where Adam and Eve, where was paradise. We represent the land of Noah. We have very serious idea, but we not use it. Yes, we are most anti-European nation, but nobody in Europe know about it.
Yeah.
We are practically, our language is a basis for the whole European language. Jewish nation has no any relations, ethnic and blood relations with Europeans, but they lead in every country of Europe.
Yeah.
But Armenians has and nothing activity. That's why I told that necessary to learn experience of Jewish, experience of Greek, experience of everybody. We must be friendly and to Jewish and to text to everybody. For what? To create strong Armenia, having in mind our interest with this aim.
Yeah. Yeah. Create relations for your own advantage. And Edgar brings a great point. Only 7% of Armenian kids are in private Armenian school in the U.S., especially in California. It's too expensive, and I can attest to that because my kids go to AGBU.
I went to one. That's why my parents.
And it's very
pulled me out.
expensive,
Yep.
and you have to cut from your whatever daily life, monthly life, whatever expenses you have, to be able to send your kids to these schools. Now, we chose to do that. It's hard, but we're doing it for our kids. I still think that Armenian schools need to focus more about our history, like you said, teach them who we are. They concentrate too much on these, what do you call them? Almost like the...
it's almost like localization.
Not just that. They teach the PowerPoints,
Yeah.
They teach maybe a little bit of Tigran, you said, Tigran the Great, a little bit of Vartan Mamikonian, 301 AD. They nitpick things. They don't teach all the way back to who we were, where we came from, really teach them about the Armenian highlands and how we migrated into other countries and gave birth to civilizations. We talk about this with Vaughn all the time. So I think that's the biggest problem of the diaspora. There's so much money out there. There's so much money out there that could be invested into creating more schools, affordable schools, or even create some kind of a, I don't know, what's the term, like financial aid, something to help these kids to...
yeah, but don't forget, it's still working under an American education system.
It is,
right? That's typically what they're gearing these kids to prep for. They're not prepping them to become Armenian citizens or Armenian repatriates. They're grooming them to get into American colleges and institutions.
I agree, but at the same time, you can do that with giving them, if they have history class every day, Armenian history class.
Yeah, like for instance, when I was growing up, I don't know how it is now. Your kid,
they have it. They have it, but it's like once a week.
Three times a week for us. It was 3 times a week until 7th grade. And then after that, it was just...
Yeah, but what are they teaching?
Not like I said, I've mentioned it many times. Nothing. Very scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Very scratch the surface.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's... I hope things change. I think we wake up as hopefully we wake up as a nation, because if not, we're going to be doomed.
I mean, I think it's happening, but like Tigran's been saying, too many voices from outside, and it doesn't look like there's enough doing anything to impact what should happen over there.
Yeah. Tigran, are you working on anything right now as far as any other projects, or should I ask, what are you working on right now? I know with the situation with Ukraine, it's kind of tough for you.
Sorry. Really, now I concentrated the situation in Ukraine because it was unprecedented. It's a great tragedy, and it's also influenced my family, everybody, because we don't know what will be the future. When I will be understand, I will continue my project about the codification of Armenian heritage and about ideas, what we could do and how we could do. for the common Armenian future.
Well, you're doing great work, and thank you for everything that you're doing. You're a family friend as well, and we don't talk about this stuff obviously here, but there is a lot that you do and a lot that you've done in the past. You've been here in the States, you've been to my parents' house, and we've had great conversations, and
know each other from childhood.
Yeah. By the way, my mom's in here. She was saying hello to you. Again, I thank you for everything that you're doing. You're a great man. Your knowledge about all this stuff is incredible, and we would love to have multiple conversations, especially going back, thousands of years. We have one last question for you, and this is a question we ask to all of our guests.
It's your turn. It's your turn.
It's my turn.
Week.
Okay,
yeah, it's your turn. To ask
so,
this,
this question is: if you had a time machine, գիտես ժամանակի մեքենա. Yeah. What period would you like to go back to live or witness, and why? In Armenian history.
In Armenian history.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see the initial period as scientist to really understand how it was the base of our creation, how it's happened. Initial period, but it's approximately 6,000 years ago. Yeah. I speak about this initial period. Yes, I am not speak about Portasar, that in Western Armenia is at 80,000 years, but approximately 6,000 years is the most interesting period for me to understand how it's happened. I am not historian. I am only amateur in history, but I learn Armenian history whole my life. And when I speak about Armenian history, it's a conversation of amateurs, because my specialization is politology. It's necessary to understand.
Yeah. Well, we need to connect him with Vahan Setyan. Yeah. I think you guys will have some great conversations. Yeah. We've learned so much from him, and the belief that we go way back. I mean, even 18,000 years. So. And I think there's truth to that.
Of course there is.
Anything you want to mention before we let you go?
I would like to wish to the whole Armenians prosperity and safety. And to think, if we not live in Armenia, to find such states with stable political system, not to be in the situation as Russian Armenians now, that's 3 million, that country is under sanctions, nothing is work. No Facebook, you understand, all is blocked, SWIFT, not act, and 3 million Armenians must give young Armenians to fight now and die for interest of the Russian, not to be in such situation. It's very important to think where you go. Parents must think where they established this new Armenian, that it will not be the hotbed, you understand?
Yeah.
Necessary to be very, very smart and clever making such decision.
Yeah. Very true. Tigran, I wish you the best, to you, to your family, to your sons. Stay safe. I know it's a very tough situation for you. We'll definitely be in contact with you. And thank you for waking up early in the morning to be with us. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Also, it was very interesting for me. I am very glad if I tell as minimum some words that will be interesting for other Armenians. I will be glad if it's so.
It truly will. It truly will. It is. Yeah. So again, go get some rest. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much. See you.
Merci, Tigran.
Merci, Tigran. All right, guys. Well, that was Dr. Tigran Avakian. That was a great conversation. I do apologize if there's some technical...
We're a few minutes late.
Yeah, we're late, and we're not sure what's happening with... I don't know if it's an internet issue. There's some weird delay. So I do apologize ahead of time. Thank you for the question, Edgar. Thank you.
Yeah, Edgar,
we love you, bro.
Edgar was on fire.
Yeah. And thank you to Arno for representing. We're doing our best.
Thank
bud.
you, boys.
A couple of mentions. So next week, Dr. Van Setyan will be with us. The topic is going to be chemistry, I guess. He is writing a manuscript on our ancient chemists. We will go deeper into also the alphabet, metal elements, and how chemistry was there in Armenia before alchemy took over. And then we have some other shows coming up in March. We're not going to announce those yet because they haven't been confirmed. But April 7th, that is confirmed. We're going to join Harac Kozi Beokyan again live from the Eskijan Museum. This is going to be live from the museum. We'll be talking about the rug. We're going to continue our conversation talking about the rugs from the 18th and 19th century. And then we're also going to cover the orphan rugs, which were after the genocide. So mark your calendar. Again, that's going to be April 7th, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Coast Standard Time from the Eskijan Museum. And, we talked about other podcasts mentioning him. Obviously, the Wise Nuts, our boys. Always, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. Besides that, I want to mention there's another podcast. It's called Meet the Revolution, MTR. Go ahead and search for them. The host name is Cebu. They do Armenian and English. They have some great intellectuals come on. They talk about the current situation in Armenia and Artsakh. Great podcast. So again, it's called Meet the Revolution. Go ahead and check them out. So besides that, thank you very much for everybody joining us.
Thank you guys, for sticking with us a little late.
Yeah, we have some surprises. Follow us on Instagram. We have some more posts that are coming up, some interesting stuff. And so, anything else you want to mention?
No.
All right. Well, as we always say, respect one another, love one another. Love one another. I don't know what's going on with me today. And until the next episode, everybody take care of yourselves.